Okay, so you may have heard that yesterday, FBI agents went to Fulton County, Georgia, and armed with a search warrant, they went to the office of the clerk of court in Fulton County, and they went and they seized originals, and I want to underscore this, originals, voter rolls, ballots, tabulations, I mean, you name it, that had to do with the 2020 presidential election. And look, Donald Trump has been obsessed with Fulton County and has been obsessed with Georgia. We all remember the call to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, find me 11,780 votes. And then, of course, became obsessed with Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis when she successfully obtained grand jury indictment against him and other co-conspirators for violating the law in the state of Georgia. And even just last week at Davos, Trump made some outrageous claim that people would be prosecuted relating to the November 2020 presidential election. It has been one of his key kind of pillars of the big lie, the lie that anything had to do with the 2020 election, that it was stolen, etc. The fact that he has resurrected like a fucking zombie this issue, one, is a distraction from all the stuff that is happening with the murder of people in broad daylight on the streets of Minneapolis, St. Paul. But number two, also is a preparation for an attempt by Donald Trump and Republicans to make sure that the 2026 midterms don't go the way of the Democrats. They're going to steal it. And part of stealing it is making sure that they are controlling what is happening in our elections. So let's get into the nitty-gritty details. I want you to stay with me. It's going to take a little bit of time, but in a good way. Because once you hear what I have to say, you're going to have an understanding in a good, comprehensive manner about what the hell is going on in Fulton County. I bet you never thought we were going to talk about Fulton County again. Alrighty, so here we go. FBI agents, who, by the way, according to Scuttlebutt, were not local. They came from outside of Georgia. They came and they did, quote, court-authorized law enforcement action at a warehouse in Fulton County yesterday. The warrant I have here, let's walk through it, okay? It's a multi-page warrant. It's a search warrant. It has a case number associated with it, with a 2026 case, and it is under seal, meaning that the affidavit that was sworn out by the FBI special agent to be able to get probable cause for a judge to sign off on this warrant, it's under seal right now. So nobody knows what was alleged by that special agent at the FBI to be able to get this warrant. The special agent, Hugh Raymond Evans, was given this warrant. It was signed by a magistrate judge by the name of Catherine Salinas, Salinas, in the Northern District of Georgia. And the warrant states that the warrant has to be executed during daytime only before February 11th of 2026. We know that it did happen yesterday on January 28th. And it's submitted, an attorney for the government is a guy named Thomas Albus, A-L-B-U-S. Let's take a second to talk about Thomas Albus, because I think you'll be interested in knowing who he is. So Thomas Albus is the United States attorney for where? Freaking, are you ready? Missouri. So don't you want to ask yourself, why is the U.S. attorney for freaking Missouri signing off on the submission of an affidavit to get a search warrant in Georgia? Well, I'll answer my own question. Thomas Albus was the first assistant to a guy by the name of Eric Schmitt, who is the Republican senator for Missouri. Now, Albus got nominated by Donald Trump to serve as the U.S. attorney in Missouri. Now, how did Albus end up on Trump's radar? Well, because of Eric Schmitt. So Thomas Albus was sworn in on August 1st of 2025 in the Eastern District of Missouri. Now, let's talk about Eric Schmitt. Now, like I said, Schmitt loves this guy, Thomas Albus, but Eric Schmitt is a fucking problem. Eric Schmitt has done the following. He filed lawsuits when he was the attorney general. He succeeded Josh Hawley in Missouri as the Missouri AG. As the Missouri AG, Schmidt filed lawsuits to have the Affordable Care Act invalidated by the courts. During the COVID-19 pandemic in Missouri, Schmidt filed lawsuits to prevent St. Louis County from implementing public health restrictions like mask mandates, limits on gatherings, etc. He sued the Chinese government, alleging that they were trying to suppress information and arrest whistleblowers during COVID-19. He wanted to state that Missouri citizens can use firearms in certain ways. Why? Because do you guys remember those two crazy freaking people, Patricia and Mark Thomas McCloskey? They were brandishing firearms at protesters in Missouri while the protesters were marching in St. Louis in 2020. Well, he wanted to request a dismissal of those cases. He's filed multiple lawsuits when Schmidt was an AG against the Biden administration. I mean, listen, birds of a feather flock together, and Schmidt and Thomas Albus are peas in a pod. Okay, so again, weird shit here, right? Thomas Albus, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri, is handling this search warrant for Georgia. Okay. Now, what is to be searched? Well, the location is the office of the Clerk of Courts located in Fairburn, Georgia. But let's go to attachment B, because that describes what can be seized and what was seized by FBI agents yesterday in Fulton County. 1. All physical ballots from the 2020 general election in Fulton County. All tabulator tapes for every voting machine used in Fulton County. All ballot images produced during the original ballot count beginning on November 3rd, 2020. The recount and any other ballot images created from ballot scanning from that 2020 general election. All voter rolls from the 2020 general election in Fulton County from absentee, early voting, in-person, and any other voter rolls. This warrant also authorizes a review of electronic storage media and electronically stored information seized or copied pursuant to this warrant. This review of data may be done by any government personnel assisting in the investigation, including law enforcement officers and agents, attorneys for the government, attorney support staff, and technical experts. We know, because we have now seen also social media posts from Democratic lawmakers, including commissioners from Fulton County, that are showing that they went and they were not cooperating in any way. FBI agents weren't like giving any information. They were actually telling you can't come in, you can't see what we're doing. But what we do know, they took the originals. They took the originals of this information. They being the FBI agents. So why should you care? Like I said, because number one, Trump is clearly trying to get in front of the 2026 midterms. But number two, because the Trump DOJ has been trying to get this information and has been stalled out effectively through the litigation process by Fulton County. So the search warrant yesterday was an end run around litigation that they've been losing in Fulton County in Georgia. And so they have figured out a way of making some bullshit representation that there's probable cause, that there's been violations of the law. Oh, well, what federal statutes? Well, here we go. One regarding the retention and preservation of election records by officials, and the other about criminalizing efforts to defraud voters from an impartially conducted election. It's fucking election fraud allegations from 2020, Fulton County, 2020. And Trump just cannot get over it. And now he's using a criminal search warrant to get information he wasn't able to get through the civil litigation process. Okay, so let's talk about what it is. This is important. In October of 2025, Harmeet Dillon, we talk about her all the time, right? She runs the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, which we all know is a joke because they don't know a civil right unless it actually deals with a Trump supporter or MAGA. But in October, the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ subpoenaed Fulton County's 2020 ballots, but Fulton County resisted turning them over. So what did she do? Claiming that there's been civil rights violations, she files a lawsuit in December of 2025 accusing Fulton County officials of violating the Civil Rights Act by not turning over the 2020 ballots. What in the actual hell does the Civil Rights Act have anything to do with the 2020 ballots? And then in a separate lawsuit, civil, the Department of Justice sued the state of Georgia. What are they asking for? Voter rolls. They wanted the private voter list held by the state of Georgia, which contained personal information such as driver's licenses or partial Social Security numbers. And having been losing in that fight, they went and they got a criminal search warrant that was executed yesterday, wherein they did get it all. The voter rolls, the voter list, the tabulated ballots, the originals of all of that. I want to underscore how outrageous this is. And listen, what I'm going to play for you right now is the first one I'm going to play for you. This is posted by a state senator in the state of Georgia. He's a Democrat. His name is Josh McLaurin. And he was among a group of legislators that were barred from seeing what was actually going on, the actual execution of the warrant, the taking into custody, into inventory of this evidence. He was barred with a group of legislators from seeing what was happening inside the warehouse where the ballots and the stuff was stored while the FBI was conducting its search. Watch this video. It's short. He posted this on social media from the entrance because he found that this search warrant was, quote, extremely alarming. Take a listen.
Do you guys mind me asking what these are? We're senators who represent Fulton County. I'm just curious.
I'm just going to collect evidence.
Do you know what evidence you're collecting?
I don't. I haven't read anything yet.
Okay. Do you, what's the point of the search? Do you know? Can you tell us what types of documents you're trying to get?
We can send over, you can refer any of our questions to the public affairs officer, sir.
Okay.
She should be on the front side of the building.
Okay.
At least she was.
All right.
I saw this.
Okay. Thank you.
PAO.
Thank you.
Finally, there's a vitamin company that understands women's specific needs. Because whether I'm dealing with aging gracefully or just trying to feel my best every day, Parallel has something specifically designed for where I am right now. No more generic multivitamins. We finally have daily powders from Parallel that do more than just the basics. Parallel's powder line is amazing because it's not just your typical protein or greens powders. These are doctor formulated with women in mind. But honestly, anyone could take them because you're getting multiple supplements in one thoughtful, amazingly flavored powder. And here's why I trust Parallel more than any other supplement brand. They're founded by an OBGYN and all of their ingredients are backed by research. Like you, I want products that are made by people who understand women's bodies. Parallel is the first OBGYN-founded vitamin company. Actual doctors who specialize in women's health created these formulas based on the latest research and their own clinical insights. We're talking targeted nutrition, folks, for every stage of a woman's hormonal life. Menstrual health, perimenopause, just daily wellness. And these powders, they include protein, electrolytes, sleep support, and greens powder. So here's an exclusive offer for all of you listeners out there. If you order right now, you can get 20% off your first order with the following code, FANG, my last name, PHANG. New customers, 20% off your first order with the code FANG, PHANG. Go to parallelhealth.com. That's PERELELHEALTH.com. PERELELHEALTH.com. Now look, State Senator Josh McLaurin said, quote, Trump has been obsessed for the last 6 years now with Fulton County election conspiracy theories. And honey, don't we know that, right? Remember, he pressured then Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to, quote, I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than what we have because we won the state, which we know is not the case. And remember also allegations from people like, Rudy Giuliani that led to death threats against our poll workers in Georgia, which were all premised on lies. How do we know? Because Giuliani admitted that he did not have a basis to be able to make these allegations, that they were lies that he was doing as he defamed these poor women that were the poll workers. A Georgia grand jury, if I need to refresh your recollection, because I bet you I don't, though, did indict Donald Trump, as we know, and 18 associates on racketeering charges in August of 2023 over their attempts to overturn the results of the Georgia election in that state. But then a prosecutor, the guy who was heading up the state prosecutor's council in Georgia, dismissed that criminal indictment in November of 2025. In response, Donald Trump on social media said he was going to, quote, hold responsible those who perpetuated the witch hunt against him. 2 weeks later, in December, the Justice Department suing Fulton County, saying it needed to investigate compliance with federal election laws. I mean, the lawsuits have been coming from the DOJ, from the Civil Rights Division, dealing with the 2020 election that Trump squarely lost. Not prosecuting federal agents that are violating the civil rights of protesters and people on the streets, right? But going after and trying to get their hands on these election ballots and on these voting ballots. Now, in Georgia's a little unusual when it comes to this. Georgia, you have to keep ballots for 22 months only. That's usually the requirement. And as we all know, it's freaking January of 2026, so we're way outside that window. But a judge ordered that the county's mail ballots to be indefinitely preserved because there was ongoing litigation over the results of that election. Now, it was about a dozen FBI agents that came yesterday to execute this warrant. And I'm now going to play for you some sound from a Democratic commissioner for Fulton County. Her name is Mo Ivory. She was also stating that the first warrant that was presented by the FBI yesterday was actually flawed. It was incorrect. And so they actually had to go back and get a new warrant because they had fucked up the first one. And then they were able to take hundreds of boxes of the old ballots. Take a listen to what the commissioner, Mo Ivory, had to say yesterday while this was going on with the search warrant.
So they served a warrant, the FBI, this is Trump, serving a warrant to go pick up the 2020 ballots, which are in a secure location inside of here, 700 boxes. The first warrant that they gave was incorrect legally, like they didn't follow the right procedure. They went back and they fixed it, and they came back and now they are actually collecting the boxes. So this is an attempt to take your vote away. This is all about November 2026, about the primary on May 19th and then the November election. He does not want the midterm elections to take away his power. So he's trying to create chaos. So this is what he does. Chaos in Minnesota, chaos in Fulton County. We are a target. Protect your vote at all costs. I'm telling you, everybody always says your life depends on it. Oh, your life does depend on it this time.
Alrighty. So now you had Republican members of the Georgia State Election Board at the site of the execution of this warrant yesterday. One of them is this woman named Sally Grubbs. She said that, quote, it's a long time in coming and getting a lot of the answers that need to be given, right? Because she's an election denier about the 2020 election results. She also once followed a truck that she believed was bringing ballots to be shredded, and she was dead ass wrong. Then she was spotted inside the elections building with another Republican member of the Georgia State Election Board, a woman by the name of Janice Johnston. They were complaining that they couldn't reach the area where the search was taking place because, according to David Worley, a Democrat and a former member of that state election board who was also on scene of this warrant, these women were claiming it's our subpoena. Oh, no, honey. If you look at the subpoena says it's the United States, right? But what does this tell you about coordination and conspiracies being done together? Co-conspirators, right? It clearly is being done to help the Georgia's State Election Board Republicans. It's being done to help the Republicans. There's no election integrity questions here. There's no pursuit of justice and transparency and truth here. If you have Republican members of the Georgia State Elections Board saying, quote, it's our subpoena, and that's why they're demanding to be able to see what's happening when these FBI agents are executing on the warrant, well, no, that's not how it works. But they just let the cat out of the bag, didn't they? They just let everybody know the truth about what the hell was going on with this search warrant from yesterday. Do you believe in coincidences? I don't. A week ago, Kash Patel just forced out the head of the FBI's Atlanta Bureau. So, according to Scuttlebutt on the Street, it was out-of-state FBI agents that came to execute this warrant was not Georgia FBI agents. And Kash Patel forced out the head of the Atlanta Bureau last week just in time to not run any interference, maybe, with what happened yesterday. I don't believe in coincidences, trust me. I truly don't. And because there are no coincidences. In November of 2025, Steve Bannon was demanding that Ed Martin, lackey extraordinaire as well for Donald Trump, that Ed Martin, who's now at the Department of Justice, that Martin, who, oh, by the way, he's also an election denier, as we know, Steve Bannon demanding that Ed Martin send U.S. Marshals to Fulton County to claim ballots back in November of 2025. No coincidences. Y'all remember that extortion letter that Pam Bondi sent to Governor Walz in Minnesota? I'll take the people out of Minnesota. I'll take those federal agents out, but you got to give me your voter rolls. Folks, I know that you are paying attention to this because y'all are smart. And you guys know what the truth is. They want the voter rolls. They want the voter information. They don't give a shit about immigration. They don't give a shit about drug trade, drug trafficking. They want to control the outcome of the 2026 midterms and beyond. They want access to all this personal information. They want to know where all the pressure points are. They also want you to be scared into submission so you don't stand in line, right? Because what are they saying? Mail-in ballots are rife with fraud. So they want to do away with the mail-in ballots so that you're forced to have to stand in line on election day, perhaps for hours at this rate. They want to force bullshit issues in terms of ID, because we never had a problem with that. But yeah, according to the Republicans, we do. And then what they're going to do is they're going to look at you, or they're going to listen to you, and they're going to say, you look like an illegal alien. You sound like an illegal alien. We're going to take you out of the voter line. And then they're going to let you out of custody the next day. And you will never have voted. Or they'll come for you. They'll come for you. They'll make up some bullshit excuse and they'll come for you because they'll know from the voter ballots and from the voter rolls who you are and who you voted for. And we can't forget Doge, right? Whistleblower coming forward just a couple of weeks ago saying that the Social Security Administration, you had Doge people there that were trying to work with elections, third-party elections groups to try to get the information. I mean, people, we got to be vigilant, man. And we have to call out the improprieties, the illegalities, and we got to talk about how unusual this is. They're trying to end run the judicial process because they're losing there. They're losing. And they go and they get this bullshit criminal search warrant, and now they have the hands on the originals. I am freaking out about the fact they have the originals. The originals that were like kind of like saran wrapped, that were like hermetically sealed, right? They took this stuff out of the warehouse, right? And God knows where they went or what they did with it. Oh, and who else was there? Who else was there? Let me get their names for you. I want to make sure. One of them I know, obviously, off the top of my head. I'm going to share that with you in a second. But let me just make sure that I get the other person's name right. Ready? The FBI Deputy Director Andrew Bailey was there. Because y'all don't have anything better to be doing at the FBI than going to fucking Fulton County to a warehouse to collect the ballots from the 2020 election. And who else was seen? Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, the head of our national intelligence, the director of national intelligence. What are you doing in Fulton County, Tulsi? What does this tell you? You bring the deputy director of the FBI and you bring the DNI, the director of national intelligence, and you bring out-of-state FBI agents. You get an out-of-state U.S. attorney. What does that tell you? They're going to try to steal this election, folks. Spread this video. Let people learn what is happening. Let them know the truth about what is happening. This shit is happening in broad daylight, in real time, right before our eyes. And we have to do something about it because it's just wrong. And we're not going to be distracted. I know we're not distracted from the Epstein files. We're not distracted from the horrors from this immigration enforcement stuff. I get it. But if we don't get the right people in office, if we don't have clean elections, if we don't have truly clean elections because they're being manipulated and are stolen by the Republicans, we got a fucking problem, people. We need Democrats back controlling the levers of power, and we're not going to get them there if this is the type of stuff that's going on. Pay attention and be mad and be outraged, demand accountability. It's the 29th day of January, 2026. I'm in the fight. Are you? Katie Fang here. We launched the Katie Fang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.